Hunger is the most accurate word to describe what food insecurity is, that there's not a connection between healthy and nutritious food and people who need access to it.
The main food relief agency, MANA, which is part of Feeding America, does report that about 100,000 people, and of that about a third are children who are food insecure in our western North Carolina region.
It's really hard to believe in this area, in this Asheville area, because it's been named Foodtopia. There's beautiful farm-to-table restaurants. There's abundant farmland and thriving farmers markets, and there seems to be this sense that there's no hunger here. And that's quite the contrary. We rank in the top 8 in food insecure places in the country. And 1 in 4 children are going to bed not knowing where their next meal is.
So you have Foodtopia, which the Asheville Tourism Board coined and have marketed to fill hotel rooms. So the Asheville Tourism Board, their legislative mandate is to fill hotel rooms. So they created Foodtopia to bring more tourists in. When you have a marketing campaign like the local food, Foodtopia, you really don't want to put a big damper on it by showing the underbelly of hunger and class issues and racism, institutional racism underneath that.
It was very shocking for me and I would imagine most people when they come here to think that there is such, there's poverty and food insecurity, and they basically go hand in hand. In a recent study done by Feeding America, this hunger study in 2014, close to 80% of this population of the participants we serve are making the choice to pay for utilities, heat, water, or buying food. So the last thing they're going to do at the end of the day is go with their $4 they have and buy a bag of carrots. It's just not going to happen.
One of the barriers is the lack of a living wage. We do have Just Economics locally, which is an organization that advocates for a living wage, and we have several businesses that provide a living wage, but still there are so many businesses that do not pay very much over the minimum wage. And we know from national research that the family's household income can make a significant difference in their ability to pay for food. Even if they're on food assistance, it can help a significant amount.
But even at the living wage that they propose is not enough for Asheville. I think it's $12.85. That's not a livable wage in Asheville. The livable wage in Asheville is like $14.50, and there's not that many jobs that's gonna pay you $14.50. You sacrifice a lot, because most of the time, you making $7.25, you got to catch the bus back and forth to work. You know what I'm saying? About time, then they don't give you enough hours. I stayed there for 2 years and I never made it past $7.65. Now they starting people off at $8.50. And a lot of it is, you got to sacrifice stuff, you can't always eat what you want to eat. I used to hate to have to eat the hamburgers there. It's horrible. Some of the stuff you have to do, just to make ends meet and have your life comfortable. Some of the sacrifices you got to make, well, we got to pay rent this month, so we might not, that water bill when it come out in the middle of the month, might have to wait 2 or 3 weeks. We might have to go out water for about 4 or 5 days till we get our next check to be able to pay that bill off. So it's a lot of sacrifices you got to make at making these minimum wage jobs that they have around here.
So in Asheville, we have a unique situation in which historic communities of color were displaced, and most of those ended up in housing, public housing units, and a lot of those public housing units are isolated. They're actually separated from centers of commerce, and most of the residents there are often reliant on public transportation, and Asheville doesn't quite have a public transportation system that functions well in terms of scheduling around people's work schedules or their needs. One, and two, if you have young children taking public transportation and coming home with loads of grocery bags, and it's an endeavor. Even if you take your car, grocery shopping with small children is just a challenge. And so you have situations where people just don't have the same basic access and ability to get to centers where there's healthy food or healthy food stores. So in these communities, generally what you have within walking distance, ease of access to, is convenience stores, and the selection of food is usually prepackaged, a lot of junk food. So there's been several initiatives around the country, really, healthy convenience store initiatives that work to get more produce and healthier options in the convenience stores that people have access to within walking distance.
One of the initiatives that the Youth Empowered Solutions project here in Asheville is implementing is trying to get more fresh fruits and vegetables into some of the smaller grocers. So there is a smaller grocer that's very close to Pisgah View. We have Greens Grocers, which is down in the River Arts District, close to a couple of public housing communities as well. How do we get more fresh foods available in those stores, I think, is also a good approach.
Asheville's also got the Ujamaa Freedom Market, which is a bus that takes produce to the local housing developments and sets up on certain days of the week. And there are other organizations that do that, like Bounty and Soul, that will actually bring the food to the communities.
Ujamaa Freedom Market is a worker-owned cooperative. We bring fresh produce that's grown in local gardens and farms. We've been focusing on public housing, Diva View, Hillcrest, Klondike, Livingston, Erskine, Walton Street, Pisgah View. Some of the communities like Diva View, Pisgah View, Hillcrest, Erskine has been designated food deserts, meaning there's not a grocery store within so many miles of them. So we are trying to make it accessible to the people. Everybody don't have transportation. It's very hard for some single women to go to a grocery store with 3 and 4 kids on a bus, because you would never want to pay a cab to take you that far, And it's basically to help people that's in poverty try to save money by being able to bring the food to them. Most of it is cheaper than what's in a grocery store. We try to keep our prices cheaper than theirs and affordable, because we want to make money doing this venture, but to us, making sure that the food is there and a choice for the people in the communities to have is more important to us. A lot of people think that, even my family members think, because I got my own business, I got money. I'm like, man, I'm still broke. I haven't received a paycheck in 2 years for this, and it's a struggle. I just had a new baby, but this is my passion, is to make this work. Whether we make money or lose money, we just wanted to be able to be here for the community. We want to help the community to be able to see what we're doing and try to emulate what we're doing. We want people in the community to be like, man, if Calvin can do it, I know his background, I know where he came from. If he can do it, I can do it too. We just want to be that model of self-sufficiency to the communities.
In May of this year, we launched our first mobile market. And basically the truck is loaded up. It's a walk-up, walk-through truck. So we load the truck up with produce and we drive it into communities. So right now we have 2 locations that we go to. One is in Swannanoa at a daycare center, and also which services communities around that perimeter. And we also are at the elementary school in Black Mountain. The people that we serve are, they have 2 jobs, some 3 jobs. Some are single parents that have 3 children and are working, and some are 2 income parents and still unable to, you know, put food on their table, and not just food, but healthy food. So yes, you can go to go to McDonald's and go to the dollar menu, or you can go to the grocery store and fill your basket up with, 99-cent ramen noodles, but that's not food. To date, we've distributed over 450,000 pounds of produce, and that is produce coming primarily from Manna Food Bank. We also work, we've developed collaborations with local farmers and growers right here. And we have a great partnership with the Black Mountain Community Garden here, which harvests about, last year it was 10,000 pounds of produce for us.
So the beauty of working with Bounty and Soul is that we finally have this partnership where we can really focus on growing the best vegetables possible and getting them into people's homes within a couple of hours after harvesting. It's a great partnership because Manna can provide her like all the hard non-perishables in the sense of like squash, potatoes, even tomatoes and peppers. Like they just have a much longer shelf life. But greens, you're lucky to hold them in that sort of transitory storage. A food distribution just doesn't have the same storage as you can in your own home refrigerator. And so in that sort of, transitory distribution, she's got maybe 24, 48 hours. And if we were to distribute it through Manna, most of their food needs at least a week or more shelf life. So it means that we're getting food peak of perfection. One of the reasons why we focus on growing nutrient-dense greens, not only because their shelf life is short and Manna can't provide them, but also because of the high nutritional quality. So a turnip green, which we will harvest sometimes 3 times the turnip greens until we'll harvest like once or twice off the tops of the turnips until the bulb, the root gets nice and sizable, and then we'll harvest the whole thing. And so if you look at the nutritional profile of a turnip, the calorie content, the carbohydrates, and some protein is in the root. But all the trace minerals and nutrients that our bodies need so much of are triple in the greens. So it's a great crop to be growing because you're getting calories into the community, but more importantly, since calories aren't a problem in our American society, like most of our food is calorie dense, but it's not nutrient dense. And so we're doing a really amazing service in our community here because not only are we providing these nutrient dense greens on a weekly basis, but we're also providing the education so that they're actually getting into people's diets.
One of the pivotal values is the power of education, and through education is empowerment. That's what I believe in, what we stand behind in this organization. So we, at all of our markets, we have education. So it's either a cooking demonstration, which is very interactive and fun. Everything is fun and interactive that we do, because oftentimes when, people are just handed a recipe, it's still an overwhelming thing. So first of all, it's overwhelming when people come to the market and see things like spaghetti squash and butternut squash and eggplants. And even we have participants that don't know what a zucchini is, or, oh, I thought that was a cucumber. So it's really, we start at the basics in educating what the differences are between the fruits and vegetables, what they are, and then how to cook them, how to utilize them in your weekly menus. Because even if it's not access and affordability, it's knowledge on what to do with the food, and why is that eggplant good for me, or what are the foods I need to eat that is going to reduce my blood sugar. Because everybody wants to be healthy. I see it. I feel it when I'm there working with the participants. Is everyone wants to be healthy, and this is giving them just that one more step closer to achieving health and vitality, and oh, by the way, you're filling your belly.
I think the breadth of the difficulty and complexity of the situation means that we bring everything we have to the table. And one of the primary principles of mindfulness is to move into the discomfort, to move towards the uncomfortable conversation, not away from it. And I think that's the first step that we all have to do, is keep being willing to wake up every day and hold the tension of a complex issue that doesn't have easy solutions, and still being willing to show up for it every day and have that conversation in whatever way you can. So it might mean that you're doing poetry, it might mean that you're doing art, it might mean that you're creating a dialogue, it might mean that you visit your grandpa and talk to him about his farm and what's going to happen to it after he passes away. It might mean that you volunteer with a local organization. It might mean that you do some more research on policies and things other cities have been doing. But it means that you have that courageous conversation, that you bring your whole heart and your whole humanity to the issues that are facing us.